Hello, party crashers. What's going on? Welcome to Gossip Girl. Sorry. Welcome to the Messy Sweet Spot. I'm your host, Jessica. And honey, I got another video. I know you guys love these videos. Me too. Okay, they are saying that Todd is speaking out. Well, he's not speaking out. But in this video, it pretty much like shows or tell what's going on behind the scenes. And I think it has a lot to do with Todd being the outsider because, you know, Kandi and her gay friends pretty much like dominated the household, you know? And, you know, Todd just felt a certain way. But I don't know, because people are saying Todd really didn't want to be in that relationship in the first place. Because if you guys remember, Todd's first girl she was already in a relationship when he met Kandi. That's what I'm hearing. And she came out and told us that Todd told her that he was just dealing with Kandi for a lifestyle. And, you know, but that was true, but it wasn't true because he ended up dumping her and moving on with Kandi. But it could still be he still wanted her for the lifestyle. I'm not sure. So maybe he just was like, you know what, I'm going to not worry about this because I'm just here to glow up his career. Because, you know, in Hollywood or in Atlanta, Hollywood, they say the only way you can go up if you have to sacrifice, and you can sacrifice your behind hole. And he said he wasn't going to give it up to Tyler Perry. You know what I mean? So he was like, well, this may be the next best thing is to marry a female, because they said these girls out here that got a lot of money, these guys are pretty much homosexuals that are getting involved with them, and they're climbing the ladder based on these girls. It's like you climb the ladder based on a girl or a gay guy. So which one you want to do? So I guess he decided to do Kandi, you know? I don't know if it was really love. Most people say it wasn't love. It was more transactional. But you guys have to watch this video in its entirety. I love you guys so much. I thank you guys for supporting my channel, The Messy Sweet Spot. And let's see what's going on, honey. What in the world? And I know a lot of you guys were like, when it first came out, that this marriage, you guys thought it was fake. You guys thought it was fake. You guys thought I was faking you guys. You was like, no, I don't believe it. It's just for a storyline. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You guys always say that, but it always comes true. Give it time. It's coming. Trust me. These rumors don't be coming out of nowhere. They come from somewhere. Hello? And then boom, it's there. Come to find out, they've been planning this since July. We're late to the party, you guys. All right. So if you think it's unbelievable, most likely it's true. Okay. So let's see it. Let's check this out. You guys ready?
Nicholas Henderson. He said, when do we meet? Okay, you want to tell him that? It's
20 years ago. Karan is a part of this story. You hear that? Yes.
Okay, come on over here.
So Karan is definitely a part of this story. Mm-hmm. Like, speaking of that, so we met almost 20 years ago.
That's my cousin Karan.
That's Karan.
And we want me to switch.
Yeah.
Don't put me on the end.
So yeah, it was almost 20 years ago. I had done a website that when I was in college.
For years, the public saw a power couple. What they didn't see was the silence. According to people who claim they were close to the marriage, the tension between Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker didn't explode overnight. It supposedly rotted quietly from the inside, decision by decision, meeting by meeting, until one voice note changed everything. Sources allege Todd became convinced that one bond in the room was growing louder than his own. Not in headlines, not on camera, but in the small spaces where control really lives, late-night calls, last-minute changes, strategy conversations that ran long after he left the table. Friends say Todd felt like a third presence had entered the marriage, not as a person, but as power. Privately, there were reported arguments. Long ones, emotional ones, allegedly about boundaries, allegedly about respect. Then came Thanksgiving. The dinner where, according to insiders, a kitchen conversation stretched for over an hour, while Todd sat untouched across the room. That night, at 3:04 a.m., a voice note was recorded. I can't keep pretending, the voice allegedly says. People think it's jealousy. It's not. It's about respect, and I lost mine. Hours later, the blogs lit up, and everything changed.
Let's try to respond, or you can hit up Don Juan.
You can hit me.
Hit him in the DMs.
Don, check your DMs.
Sometimes.
He's more, you gotta
hit me on email. Yeah, the DM part, that gets scary. My DM stuff, that'd be scary.
Yeah.
Post too much.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What else is everybody saying?
Yeah, I'd be scared.
What are people saying? Let me see. Eugenia Miller says, Eugenia for Richmond, Virginia, need an extra on Housewives. I'll be extra like Marlo for the past 10 years until I get my peach.
You read that shadiness.
Well, I just saw that. I'm not pre-reading them. I don't even have time to pre-read.
Joni Martin. No, nobody took it personal. We just don't want to. Yeah.
Joni, no, we didn't take your question personal. He just didn't want me to go start the mess, with the back and forth with certain people that have been coming from me in social media.
Yeah. It's like,
too late. No, just kidding.
Keep watching Kandi and the Gang.
Yes, keep watching.
Make sure y'all use the hashtag tonight, pound Kandi and the Gang.
Oh.
Make sure you watch it live. Watching live is important, even in this world of TV. People kind of, they're like, oh.
For months, nothing seemed wrong on the surface. Public photos still went up. Campaign captions still smiled. Business announcements still landed right on schedule. But according to people who claimed they were close enough to the marriage to feel the temperature change, something had gone cold long before the internet noticed. Not loudly, not theatrically, quietly. Friends would later say the tension didn't enter through scandal. It entered through calendars, through edits made at the last second, through calls that went unanswered, through meetings Todd was once part of, and then slowly, mysteriously, no longer was. Insiders allege Todd began to feel like decisions were being decided elsewhere before they ever reached him. Show moves, business strategy, house schedules, personal plans. All of it, they say, seemed to route through one person. Not as a villain. Not on paper, but as gravity. And gravity doesn't argue. It pulls. Sources claim Todd started describing the same feeling again and again, that the room always had a third presence. Not physically, but operationally. A presence that didn't sit, it hovered. And the more it hovered, the smaller he felt inside his own marriage. People close to Todd say he tried at first to rationalize it. That he didn't see conflict, he saw coordination. He didn't see intrusion, he saw efficiency. He didn't see distance, he saw work mode. But then, allegedly, came the change in tone. Private disagreements, according to insiders, began to collapse into the same outcome. Todd was emotional, while others were practical. Todd was too personal, while others were professional. Todd was reading too much, while others were just doing business. If he questioned a decision, the reply was that he was sensitive. If he pushed back, it was labeled insecurity. If he asked for space, it became drama. Sources say the frame was always the same. Todd equals the problem. And eventually, even he began to question whether that was true. Quietly, something else formed, a new rhythm in the house. Certain conversations happened behind doors. Certain topics changed when he walked in. Certain strategy talks ran longer than necessary. And nothing kills a marriage faster than the feeling of being edited out of your own life. According to friends close to Todd, what hurt the most was not the decisions themselves. It was the idea that decisions no longer included him. They say he began using one phrase again and again. It's like I'm married, but I'm not in the marriage. What started as discomfort slowly became something darker. Resentment. Not toward his wife, but toward the space between them. That invisible space. That expanding silence. And silence is never neutral. It chooses sides. The social media shift came next. Eerily subtle. Fans would later notice something small, then impossible to ignore. One account stopped tagging the other. One stopped appearing. No anniversaries. No couple captions. Just children. Business. Vacations separate. People close to the circle claim this wasn't a PR strategy. It was a standoff. Because according to insiders, Todd no longer felt invisible. He felt replaced. Not romantically, not even emotionally. Operationally. As if the marriage itself now ran on a different chain of command. One source who claims to have seen private messages says Todd wrote late one night, "Am I your husband, or am I just the last person on the list?" No one answered. That, they say, is when everything cracked. And then came Thanksgiving. To the outside world, it was just another holiday photo opportunity. Behind closed doors, sources allege it was the night reality finally became undeniable. They claim a conversation in the kitchen stretched past the hour mark. Strategy. Work. Long-term planning. The kind of talk that requires notebooks. Budgets. Timelines. While, reportedly, Todd sat in another room without interruption, without information, without invitation. Family members, according to insiders, noticed. Not the words. The energy. The way one side of the room leaned together and one figure leaned away. Someone allegedly whispered, This doesn't feel like a marriage anymore. When dinner ended, there was no argument. No slammed doors. No raised voices. Just a truck door closing. Quietly. According to sources, Todd sat inside his car. In the dark. At 3:04 a.m., a voice note was recorded. Its contents were not theatrical. It was not explosive. It was tired. Allegedly, the words went something like, "I can't keep pretending everything is normal. People think it's jealousy. It's not. It's about respect, and I lost mine." Those who claim to have heard the message say the last 10 seconds were not words at all. Just breathing. Shaky. Heavy. Like something finally let go. By morning, the message had moved. Accidentally? Intentionally? Strategically? No one can say for certain. But before the sun set, headlines began to flicker across screens. Is something breaking between Kandi and Todd? Todd Tucker finally speaks? Private message surfaces. No files were shown to the public. No transcripts were posted. Just whispers. And in the absence of proof, the internet did what it always does. It filled the silence with imagination. That's when another moment resurfaced. Not from this week. Not from this year. From years earlier. A live video. Harmless at the time. Ordinary even. Until it wasn't.
Business and all of that is great. We disagree on this. So that's what part of the battle is. So guess what? Since we on here live with y'all, let's see what you guys think about that. Do you guys think that she should be doing a book about, I'm not talking about a memoir to be talking about all that. I'm not talking about that.
10 steps to being great.
You know, like I'm talking about those kind of books. Tell me what y'all think in the chat below.
It was meant to sound light. It was meant to be warm. It was meant to be trust. But in the new context, fans began to read it differently. Not as teamwork. As transfer of authority. Suddenly, the internet wasn't hearing comfort. It was hearing replacement. Thread after thread began to appear. Not accusations. Not directly. Just questions. Why did everything route through one person? When did Todd stop being involved? Who really decided what happened next? Of course, none of it could be proven. But the pattern was hard to ignore. One blogger wrote, "Love doesn't collapse loudly. It collapses when someone else becomes the shortcut to your life." Another posted, "The hardest betrayal isn't another person. It's watching your space shrink." By the end of the week, two camps had formed. One saying, "This is nonsense." The other saying, "This is overdue." And in the center of it all, silence. No rebuttal. No confirmation. No denial. Just distance. Friends of Todd claim he was not trying to expose. He was trying to survive. That he didn't want headlines. He wanted his wife back. One insider says Todd repeated the same line to them more than once. "I never competed with anybody. I just wanted my marriage." Others claim he said it differently. "I didn't lose her to another person. I lost her to a system." No one knows which version is accurate. But both say the same thing. Love didn't end with a scandal. It ended with a slow handoff of importance. And now, according to people watching from the outside, the marriage is not the story anymore. The distance is. Because what happens when someone doesn't steal your partner? They just out-organize them? Once that voice note allegedly left Todd's phone, it didn't just travel, it mutated. According to insiders, it didn't appear online all at once. It appeared in fragments. Out of context. Out of order. Out of control. An anonymous blog posted the first line. Then another page posted a leaked paraphrase. Not the audio. Not the file. Just words. And in gossip culture, words without proof become louder than proof itself. By the second day, the internet had already rewritten the marriage in its own image. Not with certainty. With suspicion. Sources claim Todd never planned for the message to become public. They say he sent it to one person. One. Someone he believed would listen. But instead of listening, they forwarded. From there, the story escaped the private world and entered the digital bloodstream. And once that happens, control is over. That's when a new phrase began circulating. Not officially. Not in statements. In captions. In comments. In rumor columns. The bond. Not an affair. Not a relationship. Just a word with no borders. A word flexible enough for projection. Discomfort became accusation. Confusion became narrative. Emotion became evidence. Some blogs framed it as emotional distance. Others as professional takeover. Others, darker still, painted it as betrayal. But none of them had documents. Only direction. According to people close to Kandi, she did not see the wave coming. Not at first. They say she was shocked not by the story, but by the speed. 1 minute she was executive focused. The next minute she was cast as cold. 1 minute everything was business. The next minute it was conspiracy. Sources claim Kandi reached out privately at first. Off camera. Off record. Trying to understand why something she considered normal had turned into poison. But Todd, they say, was already past conversation. Not because he hated her. but because he felt unheard too long. Friends of Todd allege he had tried everything before the voice note. Conversations, calendar talks, requests for space, requests for inclusion. They claim his frustration was never public at first. It was internal, until it wasn't. Behind the scenes, sources describe a collision of two realities. Kandi believed she was maintaining control. Todd believed he had lost it. And Don Juan? Depending on which side you believed, he was either support or shadow. One anonymous insider said, "He didn't steal anything. He just filled a space that was left empty." Another said, "He wasn't a person. He became a system. And systems don't apologize. They optimize." What made the situation worse, insiders claim, was the imbalance of reactions. Todd went silent. Kandi stayed operational. Don Juan stayed strategic. And the public became forensic. Old clips resurfaced with new narration. Casual jokes became coded warnings. Smiles became rehearsed. Fans began building timelines out of thumbnails. She stopped posting him here. He stopped appearing there. This interview changed tone. That caption vanished. Every pixel became a witness. And when real evidence doesn't exist, people invent it. By week 2, the narrative had hardened, split into camps. On one side, he's insecure. On the other, he was erased. No middle, no moderation, no mercy. A former associate, anonymous, reportedly said, Todd didn't lose Kandi to another man. He lost her to a machine that no longer needed him to function. If true, this wasn't a love triangle. It was an organizational coup. The marriage, they claim, wasn't broken. It was restructured. Without a vote. Without a meeting. Without him. One blog posted the line that went viral. Some men lose women. Some men lose territory. And Todd allegedly saw himself not as abandoned, but defeated. That's when something changed. According to those around him, Todd stopped explaining. Stopped defending. Stopped clarifying. He stopped asking to be understood. He started preparing to be misunderstood completely. And Kandi? Sources say she didn't know how to fight a story she never participated in. Because she didn't leak. She didn't respond. She didn't scream. She didn't collapse. She kept going. And to the internet. That looked like indifference. When in reality, sources claim, it was shock. The kind that freezes. A friend of Kandi allegedly said, "She wasn't denying you. She just didn't know what she was being accused of." But online, silence is guilt. Not always. But it always looks like it. The rumor economy doesn't wait for explanations. It monetizes confusion. Every article framed Todd as wounded. Every title framed Kandi as distant. Every thread framed Don Juan as powerful. But none of them knew the truth. They only knew which version got clicks. And then something worse happened. Impersonation clips appeared. Fake voice recreations. False texts. AI-generated audio. The chaos deepened. Now no one could tell real from fake. Not even the fans. Not even the friends. Not even Todd himself. One source claims he said, "They're using my pain as decoration now." In the middle of this, an unexpected rumor surfaced. A so-called agreement. Not legal. Not documented. But whispered. A rumor suggesting personal and professional lines were blurred beyond repair. Was it real? No one could prove it. Was it believable? That's what made it dangerous. By the time anyone decided to address anything, the audience had already decided everything. And once an audience decides, no statement is loud enough. The marriage, once private, was now public property. And property gets vandalized. And sold. And reused. By the time Kandi appeared again publicly, nothing she said mattered. Because the story had already been written by people who didn't know her. Todd, meanwhile, became something else. No longer husband. He became symbol. Of displacement. Of emasculation. Of quiet replacement. He wasn't followed. He was interpreted. Every photo became a message. Every caption became code. Every smile became suspect. And somewhere inside that storm, the real issue disappeared. Not Don Juan. Not Kandi. Not even Todd. The real enemy was distance. And distance had already won. By the end of the month, no one knew anymore. Who started what? Who believed what? Who wanted what? Only one thing remained consistent. The silence. Not the calm kind. The heavy kind. The kind that destroys before it speaks. And Todd, according to those who claim to know him, said one last thing privately. "I didn't scream because I wanted peace. Now everyone thinks I'm a villain. Because I didn't scream." By the time the internet finished taking sides, the marriage had already collapsed somewhere far quieter than social media. No cameras. No tweets. No statements. Just rooms that no longer felt shared. Sources say the final breakdown didn't come with yelling. It came with logistics. Schedules no longer overlapped. Doors no longer unlocked. Texts went unanswered, not in anger, but in resignation. According to people close to the situation, the house became a place of rotation, not return. One insider described it like this: they didn't fight. They avoided. And avoidance, when prolonged, becomes a verdict. When the two finally confronted each other, sources claim it wasn't in public and it wasn't pretty. Not in volume, in weight. Todd, they allege, didn't accuse. He confessed. Not betrayal, but exhaustion. A source who claims to know what was said describes it this way. He told her he didn't feel like a husband anymore. He felt like a visitor in his own life. Kandi, according to the same source, didn't deny damage. She denied intent, which is often the most painful mismatch of all. Intent doesn't repair impact, and impact doesn't forgive intention. That night, insiders say, both of them understood something they had avoided for months. The marriage didn't fall apart in one incident. It dissolved in fragments. Every small moment where one voice mattered more. Every time a decision skipped a conversation. Every time space felt safer than honesty. When Todd finally walked away, not dramatically, but deliberately, sources claim it wasn't because of someone else. It was because he couldn't recognize himself anymore. People say he told a close friend, "I used to know where I fit. Now everything moves without me." After that, there were no more emotional messages. No more voice notes. No more explanations. Just distance formalized. Kandi, on the other hand, reportedly went silent in a different way. Not withdrawn. Just armored. She stayed visible, functional, public, and the internet misread that as cold. But those close to her claim it was survival mode. She didn't disappear, she just stopped explaining herself, one source says. And when a woman stops explaining herself, the world decides it will explain her instead. Don Juan? Sources say he withdrew into silence as well. Not defensive, not confrontational, just absent. Which complicated everything more. Because in the absence of answers, the audience creates villains. And silence never protects anyone. It only invites interpretation. Months later, fans would notice something else. Not an announcement. A pattern. No more shared holidays. No more anniversary references. No more domestic snapshots. Everything became either professional or past tense. And Todd? He changed. Not morphologically, but internally. Friends describe a man who stopped performing strength and finally confessed weakness. One claim says he admitted, "I don't hate her. I just don't know how to live where I don't belong." That line, according to one insider, never left him. By the end, this wasn't a scandal story. It was a displacement story. Not about infidelity. About irrelevance. Not about rivalry. About erasure. Not about a person replacing a person. But a system replacing a relationship. The internet still debates. Was Don Juan catalyst, or coincidence? Did Kandi ignore warning signs, or was she never warned? Was Todd insecure, or simply unseen? But the truth? The truth sits in wreckage. Because marriages don't die from explosions. They die from quiet choices made too often. And nobody documents those. No trending topic. No headlines. Just spaces that used to hold people. And now, hold nothing. Todd's final alleged words to someone close to him sum it up better than any blog ever could. "I didn't lose my wife. I lost my place in her world." Kandi, according to sources, has never responded directly. And that perhaps is the loudest part of all. Not denial. Not confirmation. Just silence. And in modern culture, silence isn't neutral. It is unfinished business. Unanswered questions. An ending that refuses to announce itself. Because sometimes, there is no villain. Only distance that grew faster than love could chase it. And that's where this story leaves us. Not with answers. Not with closure. But with a silence so loud it refuses to fade. If what sources claim is even partly true, then this was never just about one voice note, one dinner, or one misunderstanding. It was about something much colder, something slower. The moment a relationship stops being a marriage and quietly becomes a machine. No headlines announce that. No Instagram post exposes it. No interview confirms it. It just happens. And by the time anyone notices, it's already over. Some will say Todd was emotional. Some will say Kandi was distant. Some will blame a third presence. Others will blame ambition. But maybe the real story isn't about any person at all. Maybe it's about what happens when connection gets replaced by coordination. When love becomes logistics. When belonging becomes optional. Because stories like this don't end with betrayal. They end with disappearance. Not from social media. Not from business. Not from success. But from each other. And now the internet gets to decide what the truth looks like. Without proof. Without context. Without permission. That's how modern history is written. In comments. In cuts. In captions. You've now seen one version of this story. But don't mistake it for fact. This is a reconstruction. A lens. A signal in the noise. So now we ask you, Was this about jealousy or invisibility? Was this about power or distance? Was this a divorce or a quiet eviction from someone's life? Drop your thoughts below. But remember, in stories like this, the loudest truth is usually the one no one wants to say out loud.